Welcome back to Ahead of the Game. It's Tuck's Sports Takes and Sports Pez Jez, brought to you by bets.com.au, where you can get the best
Mm.
and the most game previews, tips, sporting picks.
Do we do the most? I don't know. Do we do the
Feels
most?
like we do the
Is it the most? Yeah, feels like it. We're so hardworking, aren't we?
Well, not us especially, but the
No.
site.
Yeah, not really us.
Yeah.
We work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Right. Can run with that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Today,
you're
Tux's
not
top
mucking around
5.
today.
Going to look at awards misses, and I've thought about this because it's looking like that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will win the MVP for the NBA, and I thought on Jokic's season, I mean, should he, if he hadn't have won already 3 MVPs, he'd be a shoo-in. But we'll look at that, and then below average, you got some takes for us on some NRL teams, and then also player movement.
Yeah, just a little bit. There's a lot of drama going on at the moment with player movement, it feels like. So let's chat about it and pick out what sucks about it, really.
All right. Tux's top 5 biggest award misses. Now, normally I've been sharing my screen with like videos and stuff, but this time I don't have that. I'm just going to do this and then this. So, number 5.
Still nice. Well done.
Yeah,
it's clean. I like it. Yeah, well done.
Delhi, Matt Dellavedova, he won the finals MVP in NBL 25 for Melbourne United in a losing team. And there's a bit of a theme going through here. There's a lot of guys on losing teams winning awards. But we've spoken at length about this already on the Basketball Fix. But I am thoroughly believe that he was like, I understand the voting system. I understand how he got the points. I don't believe he should have won. I don't think he was deserving of that amount of points compared to Will Hickey, who I believe was the better option for winning. You got any comments on that one before we move to 4?
No, I don't know. I think my comments on this whole list really is, I think the biggest question mark is, should anyone on a losing team ever win at least a grand final MVP award? I think it's a pretty big call. Like, do you have to make the finals to win an MVP in a season award? That, there should be some criteria maybe that's set, and I think we'll see these trends as we go through this list and discuss it. But yeah, definitely Delhi. Yeah, he was probably the most consistent player of the series, but was he the most valuable? No. Hickey was definitely the most valuable because his team won. If Delhi was the most valuable, his team would have won.
That's a very good take.
Simple.
I love it.
Simple.
He was gracious in acceptance of the award and gave it to Hickey. So obviously he knew himself that it was a bit of a shambles, but credit to him.
Yeah.
AFL Brownlows. Now, in research of this, I've kind of looked at a few different sports, and I thought, okay, has been controversy around AFL Brownlows and players that win. And to your point about criteria, the AFL have criteria. If you get suspended, and maybe it's the NRL as well, you can't win the Brownlow.
Yeah.
So there's been multiple seasons where players have won where another player has been suspended. One of those years was the Matt Priddis, I think it was 2016. I'm just going to pull it up. 2014. He polled 26 votes and won the Brownlow. Nat Fyfe for Freo, he had 25 votes and was suspended twice. So played fewer games, obviously, and almost the same amount of points. Gary Ablett Jr. as well that season, he polled 22 votes but only played 16 games. So there's multiple there. And then you have the biggest one is when Joe Watson, he won back in 2012. But then Essendon got done for that drugs saga. So he was relinquished of his award, and then it went to Trent Cotchin and Sam Mitchell 4 years after the fact. So that was a pretty contentious decision around that time. But lots of stuff in the Brownlow where when it happens on the night, people are shocked because of the way the votes have gone, or people that have missed out.
Yeah, that's like, I think I don't know, I presume there's going to be some sort of NRL Dally M in this list, or is there? Definitely no.
Not Dally M.
Who knows? No, not Dally M. But I think in Brownlow Dally M, like, I don't know, I think there's a whole lot of controversy really the whole way through it. If a player gets suspended, should they then be allowed to tally votes because they've been suspended and been ruled out? Like, I think you could go in so many different variations on the rules. And what if a player gets suspended? Is that so bad? Why can't, I guess, like, I don't know, in the AFL, like, the Brownlow is called the best and fairest, right? Like, but in, I don't know, NRL, it's, I don't know, the Dally M, it's not the best and fairest. But just because a player might do a high tackle or have accumulated points or whatever from the previous season, and then they get suspended because they had carryover points from last season or whatever, is that fair? Why should they, if they miss 1 week for something that's not,
I think so. Like, the carryover
why shouldn't they win it? Like, but whoever, like, yeah, maybe if you have like do a single act where you get suspended for 3 matches because it's something like brutal, maybe that's more fair. But just because someone maybe does some small little mistake throughout a season that's 25, 26 rounds, like, why shouldn't they be allowed to win the medal? Like, I don't know.
And like the carryover points thing, I think in the NRL they've done away with. So I don't think that exists anymore. But 100% that it's so easy to get suspended nowadays in both codes, just because of the force that you play with, and the margin of error is so small. And I think it's a great suggestion that it's a 3 week, it could even be 3 weeks over the season, not even 3 weeks in a row. That way you get a bit of leeway, and because it rules out so many players out of the top honour. And to your point, if you say, okay, well, once they've been suspended, they no longer can receive votes on the field. What happens to all the votes that they've gone, like, in the games prior, where now do they go to the next person? Or there's so many different things. Just give them the points. Let them go. Get the best player in the best spot at the best time of the season.
The
Sydney Roosters, 2 winning grand finals, 2 losing Churchill medalists.
2.
First, it was Cherry Evans. We spoke about it prior to the going on air. Cherry Evans won in his what year was this? 2013. The Roosters beat Manly 26-18 in the grand final. Cherry Evans won the Churchill medal. Many believing James Maloney deserved the honour after 3 try assists. That time it was Des Morris, Bob McCarthy, Alan Smith, and Bob Fulton. Manly connection that were the voters. He was just the 3rd player since its inception to win the medal from a losing side. And then only a couple years later, the Roosters were done again with Jack Wighton. Now, see, this game, Canberra probably should have won the game. There was that refereeing fuck up or something. Like, something happened.
I was there.
Oh, were you?
I was there. I got a great story about this when you're done.
Okay, I don't think we have time, but to take it off here.
It's a quick story.
Okay.
It's a quick story.
You
be quick.
Jack Wighton won, and many thought it would have been Warrior Hargraves that should have taken that one there. I'm trying to look for the recap of the game. I can't find it, but Roosters pipped twice. Go for it.
My story. I was at the game in Sydney for the weekend, met up with my brother, hadn't seen him in a really long time. We're out on the piss heavily the night before of the grand final, so heavily that we were almost too hungover to even get to the grand final. But we almost had a massive punch up in the elevator because he's a mad Roosters supporter, and he's putting on his bets for the game, and he tells me that he's going to put on Jack Wighton as the Churchill medalist. And I'm like, you're a joke. You're going to watch your team play in the grand final and you're going to back against your guy. What sort of supporter are you? And, this is after 25,000 beers. So it got like real heated that my mum had to split us up over his betting and Roosters fan supporting integrity because he was going to back Jack Wighton for the medal. And so he didn't do it after. And
do you remember what he was
then
paying?
Like it was big. I think the Raiders were underdogs, so it was all these are like like close to $10, like, and that come and bit me right back in the face with him being controversially handed the Churchill medal.
Can just imagine what he would have said to you when that award is read out.
Yeah,
because he's not a guy to shy back from a conflict.
No, and I think he even had Hargraves to win the Churchill medal. I'm pretty sure that's what he had. He had a couple of Roosters guys. I think was it Cooper Cronk? I think was playing. I think he had Cronk, and was the title that Cronk won maybe. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he had Waria Hargraves and Cooper Cronk or something, and didn't pick Jack Wighton.
No.
Anyway, number 2.
The article about Wighton winning there's more written there about Cherry Evans winning in the previous one than it is about Wighton and that game. So picked the wrong article, obviously. All right. Billy Slater, he won. And why this one, I think I've put it higher in the list, is because it never had happened before. A player from the losing team in an Origin series had never won Player of the Series before Billy Slater had done it. And that was in 2018. The article's in 2018 anyway. My memory's not good enough to remember. You take it with a grain of salt, was his reply when asked about the negative feedback. First player in a series losing team to win it since its inception, or that was the Wally Lewis medal, specifically that medal. So that was 2004. That was... and Slater had... and he played 2 games. What? He had a maximum of 24 points to collect in his 2 matches. Anyway, Slater won it, and it was controversial.
Yeah, shouldn't happen.
On to the one I've already flagged for. Nikola Jokić is set to not win the MVP in the NBA this season. Now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he was a Clipper, got traded to Oklahoma City in the Paul George trade, one of the worst things that's ever happened for the LA Clippers. But, he's on a massive season, and his team is the best team in the NBA. His stats, 32 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, over 50% shooting. And, he's having a cracker of a season, leading that team, that young core, to the top seed in the NBA. That's no easy feat. But then you compare the individual numbers, and what I want to do first is actually compare to Giannis. Now, Giannis is 30 points per game, almost 12 rebounds and 6 assists. So 2 points less, almost 7 rebounds more, and the exact same amount of assists per game. And Giannis, I don't think you can even bet on Giannis anymore to win the award. I mean, that's going to happen in 2 weeks. So that's the guy that's not even the guy that I'm talking about. Nikola Jokić, 30 points per game, 12.8 rebounds per game, 10.2 assists. He's averaging a triple-double on the season, 57% shooting, 41% from 3, 80% from the free throw line. The only thing that they have against them now that they've also fired their coach and their GM is that they are not winning the league. They are currently in a bit of a standoff in the Western Conference. They're 5th, but they're only essentially one game behind the 3rd placed Lakers. So, but he's already won, I think, 3 awards. So I think the voter fatigue for Jokić is there like, oh, I can't give him another one. And the narrative was there about Shea already last season, possibly pushing, and with Luca falling out early and a couple other guys falling away, the narrative around Shea was there from the beginning. But Jokić, and you compare that season, I went looking for the top NBA seasons by an individual ever, and there's nobody that compares ever in the whole history of the league. The closest that I can find is Wilt Chamberlain in his rookie year in 1959 and 60. 37 points, 27 rebounds, 2 assists. Now, totally different
27 rebounds.
27 rebounds.
Wow.
Totally different game back then. So I think it's difficult to compare the numbers against the numbers, but there's nobody that's had this type of season.
How many people have averaged a triple-double in a year?
A few, I think,
but
like
not 30, but not 30 points.
No.
Yeah. You're milking, you're scraping through on a 12-point.
And the guy, like, he's a center. He's like his size, and if you look at him, you think he's a.
Do you think they've gone off him as well just because he doesn't give a fuck? Like,
100%.
Like
they spoke about
the
it.
League is off him. They want a poster boy NBA, MVP. Like they don't want a horse trainer that doesn't care. That's just sort of there to make his cash, and he's going to piss off when he's ready. And he's 100%. Not locked in to the league.
And that's what Shea is. They're going to be able to promote him as the MVP a lot bigger. But all right, let's move on. Running out of time.
Yeah, 16 minutes. We got a quick break. All right, let's power out this last little below average segment, Ryan, because we've got places to be, dogs to catch, people to talk to. What's the thing? There's some saying I was trying to find that. Yeah, that's right. That's what I was going with. Dogs to catch, people to see. Anyway, that's not moving on. That's not moving forward. Titans, Dragons, Pretenders. Let's smash this one out of the park. It's depressing. I think I named it. It might have been Friday's show where I was like, Titans are playing the winless Dolphins. Probably should be really careful about this game. Tip Titans to win. Tip Titans defense. Back them in because they've been good defensively. But it just turns out the Knights are just awful at attack, and that's why they only scored 6 points. Yeah. And then the Dolphins come out and beat them for the 3rd time in 4 matches or 4th time in 5 matches or whatever and crush them. The Titans were a joke. And then even on our tips at bets, struggled on that game, on the result, also struggled on the result in Dragons. So I'm bitter. Dragons also come up against Parramatta. Dragons look like they were okay. They just beat Melbourne the week before. Struggled with consistency all last year in similar fashion from what I recall, where they were just like, they were good one week, they have a good result, couldn't win the next week, lose tight games, and then they just went out and did the same thing. Parramatta, awful. Tipped by most to win the wooden spoon this year, especially now with Lomax out, but this was, before that. And they go out and do that again and just play awful, can't play defense. And struggled so as much hope as you want to have
playing each other this weekend.
Yeah, and it's a bad game. It's a bad game for the Titans, I think, because I'm pretty sure the Titans usually lose against the Dragons.
No, they have a winning record, but not at Wynn Stadium, and that's I've picked the Dragons in this one. I did the write up on bets.com.au, but you've seen Melbourne beat themselves in that Dragons game. They just couldn't get the ball across the line. But here, I think the difference for these two teams compared, in their games, is they're allowing the opposition to just run as much as they want. And they're getting up the field, and then it's pressure on the goal line. And in some games, they're able to stand up somewhat because the attack, as you said, Newcastle's attack was shit. Melbourne shot themselves in the foot. So many times. If the other team's attack isn't firing on that day, then they'll be all right because their defense on the line is all right. They're in an NRL team, but the Titans can't score either. Well, they have scored a little bit, but you see the amount of ball and the amount of opportunity and chances they've had, they should be
Yeah.
converting at a higher rate.
Yeah, absolutely. So to round that off, do you give any of these two teams a chance at the 8? Do you think?
No, no.
Do you think there was
Not
a
with
bit
me.
of hype around the Titans at the start of this year by a lot of tipsters? But
Like they have the
I wasn't
squad,
there.
but they
Yeah.
don't have the style of play. They don't have the discipline.
Des Hasler's last job?
Yeah, like I can't believe he even got the job to begin with.
Yeah, I wanted Flano. I thought it's funny, Flano at the Dragons. Thought Flano
Yeah.
would do a better job at the Titans. But anyway, move on. Player movement in sports. Another rumor, another riff in the media has come up today about Clayton Oliver being in Geelong at a farm, someone's wife baking him scones on their farm, talking about his move to Geelong from the Melbourne Demons. Subtle sales pitches during periods where you are not officially allowed to talk about contracts with players. And this is just not long after, obviously, the whole Cherry Evans debacle that everybody's talked about with Cherry in the NRL. And, now they're saying, people in the media coming out saying that's why they lost last week and played so bad because Cherry Evans' heart isn't at the club anymore. And then there was Sam Mitchell of the Hawks when the Hawks had their bye I think they had a bye last week. So he was straight over hunting Oscar Allen out at Perth at a coffee shop, having meetings with him, using his time, staying efficient and making sure that his club rebuild is going in the right direction next year. But I don't know. For me, I hate it all. I think being able to sign players while they still have while they still have, a year left on their contract at other clubs is always going to cause problems. And until you do something about that, I don't think you're going to be able to get around this stuff. When you're officially allowed to talk about contracts or not, players have a life. They can talk to whoever the fuck they want on the telephone. How are you going to be able to screen certain calls? There's just no official deals being allowed to be made. But I'm sure you can hint, nudge, and put, I don't know, 500,000 scones on a plate and you know how many scones you're going to make next year. So, like, with a little bit extra cream and jam on the top. Ooh. Because, you're going to...
The proper marmalade on the scones.
Yeah, that's right. But I don't know. I hate it. I understand the whole concept about, life security and players, and you don't want it to be like the NBA where you just wake up in the middle of the night to a 2 a.m. phone call and can be traded and have to move your whole family and all of that sort of thing. Australian sport, there's not enough money in it for the majority of players to be able to accept circumstances like that. But I think something has to be done. Ryan, what has to be done?
I think you just have to learn to live with it.
This is your debacle. Yeah,
I'm on the side where it's realistically there's nothing you can do. I think it's you need to have the security if you want to have players playing the game and be able to build a life and be an elite sports player. Then you need to have that job security. Otherwise, they're going to go and study and do other stuff because that's going to, you have such a short career in professional sports, and it's supposed to set, you're going to set yourself up because your body takes such a beating during that time, and you can't do all the other jobs like normal afterwards. So I think the security is there, and I think you just maybe need to be a bit more transparent around the rules. And some lighting.
One of your lights died. We were talking about this before. Yeah. One of your lights died, and now the whole color changed. Anyway,
battery. Yeah, I think it's like maybe just open it up more, and let them talk. Don't have rules, and then you don't have to worry about anyone breaking them.
But how do you get players then being completely committed to the club that they are with? Like you got to, some players will do it, but you've got to think that there is some people out there, some players out there that are gonna, I'm playing for this team next year, so why should I care? Why should I give my all to a club? Like,
why shouldn't they? Why would that? Why would they do that?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Like,
they're professional. Like they're in that spot.
Yeah, but I think you're giving
the
people
most
too much
aggressive,
credit.
the most competitive, the most like they're. If you're not a competitive person that wants to go out there and win every single game, you don't make it to the NRL. So saying that
I don't
or
know.
the AFL or wherever, saying that they're going to go out and not give 100%, I think is taking away from what they are as a sports person.
Yeah, but I think as an individual athlete, yes, but as a team, in a team sport, when you're playing for your brothers, you're playing for the guys that are on your side, you give more. And when you could be easily, other players could be pissed off when he makes a mistake because they're thinking the same in a similar fashion to what I am. And are like, that motherfucker not trying. Like,
Yeah, but
he's
I
not,
think
like.
it's easy to have that perspective from a person that's never been there. And I think if you're in the
What do you
same
mean? I'm
sphere,
professional.
then you know that okay, everyone's out here giving it their best, and there's nothing because
I think you've got
everyone's in
too
the
much
same
faith
boat.
in humanity.
No, I've
People
got too
aren't.
much faith in a sports person being at the top level of their field, and like there's no reason for them not to give their all. Like what? Why aren't they? Why aren't they going to give like it?
Because
Anything that they don't do good is going to reflect negatively on themselves, not on
yeah, but
anybody
they've already
else.
got that deal. They've already got that multi-million-dollar deal with the other club, and they're
And
already missing the 8. So
so why
for the
doesn't
last
every single person
6 rounds of the year? Protect yourself. Make sure you don't get injured. Be a bit softer because
clutching
it
at
doesn't
straws,
matter.
buddy? Clutching at
I don't
straws.
know.
Like
I
then
don't
why
know.
would anybody ever, once they sign a deal, go and play?
Yeah,
If
I'm not
that's
saying everybody. I'm saying that there's
okay, well then
definitely players out there
weigh
that
up that then against the amount of stuff that you think is the problem that it exists with breaking rules around talking and stuff.
yeah.
Which is
I
there
don't know.
more of? Probably
I
more
think
of the breaking the rules,
I think you
not
have
the players not
a
trying.
shorter turn off season. You don't talk until if you've got an off season, you've got to run a risk of either signing a club or whatever. Like, there's got to be a way.
No,
Let's go.
no.
Talk too long.
Rightio. Bring that up in another episode when we've got a bit more time to talk.
Yeah.
What graphic do I want now? This one? No, that one.
That one. Find us and follow the graphic.
Find and follow.
Hang with us. Stay ahead of the game. Peace out.